I know that it's my time to shine. Don't need
It's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey.
love and all that I see when I'm looking at me. Just high quality, irresistible me.
Hi, it's Ivy Slater, and welcome back to Her Success Story. Today, during this special series around nonprofits for the holidays, I have a very special guest, a woman I've had the pleasure to know for a whole bunch of years, probably as long as I've been in business. Stacy Francis is a dynamo in New York City and now nationwide. She's the president and CEO of Francis Financial, which she founded, which is a wealth management, financial planning, and divorce financial planning firm dedicated to providing ongoing, comprehensive advice for successful individuals, couples, and women in transition, such as divorce and widowhood. Now, what holds Stacy near and dear to my heart is she's also the founder of Savvy Ladies, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating and empowering women to take control of their finances. This is something I stand behind so strongly. I was invited, oh my goodness, Stacy, you're going to join in a second, years ago to one of the very, very early Savvy Ladies benefits where I was just moved by the work you're doing. You've helped over 15,000 women through free one-on-one financial counseling, workshops, and retreats. Stacy also gives back as a board member of Family Kind, another nonprofit organization. She's that's focused around New York City divorce services to adults and children experiencing separation and divorce. On the personal side, I know Stacy's a mom, and we have this in common as well. She's published numerous articles. You're going to see a ton of information in her bio. More importantly, let me introduce you to Stacy Francis. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Ivy. I'm really excited to be part of this, and what a great idea to talk about charity giving back in the holidays.
Well, thank you. So share with us a little bit about, and our listeners, you founded Francis Financial in what year? And then when did you say, okay, I want to do more, and founded Savvy Ladies? Give us a little background in history here.
Well, thank you. I actually first started the charity, and the charity Savvy Ladies was my love letter, my gift to my grandmother, who was one of the most important people of my entire life. But I saw from a very early age how devastating life could be for women like my grandmother, who really didn't know much about the finances. And she ultimately passed away, and she passed away because of domestic abuse. That is something that shaped me to do this work, and it gave me the frustration, the anger, the passion to start this amazing charity, because while I failed at saving my grandmother, I pray and I hope that we are helping other women, and I know we are, because so many women have shared how through Savvy Ladies they've gotten the support, the resources, and the education they need to make good decisions about their money. And it's, of course, helpful to a woman who is trapped in a awful marriage, but this is a God-given right. Any person deserves this information, because you may find yourself trapped in a unhappy dead-end job, but not having the financial know-how on how to make that change. You may find yourself living in a part of town that you don't feel safe in, but you don't have the financial knowledge and bank account to be able to make that change. So that's actually what I started first, and then found that a nonprofit truly is known as nonprofit. You don't earn any money, and not that I ever expected to do that, but I really wanted to help not just a few, but thousands of women. And so that's part of the reason why I started Francis Financial, to become a successful entrepreneur so that I could tithe and I could give back to make sure that Savvy Ladies had all the financial resources it could ever need to help every woman.
So Savvy Ladies has been around since when?
So I started the charity back about 17 years ago, so 2001.
Wow. And so in the journey of making an impact on women, what are some of the things that you have learned for yourself as a woman? We're both moms out there, and everything we do in our career also models down to our children. So what have you seen in the work and the impact that you've touched women?
What I have found is that the more you give, the more that comes back to you. And I've really been so changed by these women to, number one, have the energy to keep moving on and make this charity a success and a reality. And now it's a lot easier, but I have to tell you, Ivy, when I was just starting the charity and then slowly after starting Francis Financial, I was working about 30 hours a week to 40 hours a week for Savvy Ladies, and then another 40 hours plus for Francis Financial in that same week. And I will tell you, there were so many times where I just didn't know if I could keep on. And then I had children and trying to balance that with children. It was definitely, I have to tell you, a hard road, but what has helped me keep stepping down that path and that road is hearing from other women the impact and the difference that it makes for them. But not only that, but the beautiful thing is you start to see these women then teach their children. And again, this is a skill that, all of us really, really need.
So if you're willing, can you go into a little bit more detail here? I know the mission, I know the important impact of women taking control of their finances and not being subjugate to anybody you're living with, or when you look around, you think you're stuck in a situation what does Savvy Ladies actually sit down and do? Do you meet with women? How do you find these women? Do people come to give us really the scoop here?
So we help women in many different ways. The first is that if you go to our website, you'll see there are hundreds upon hundreds of TED Talk-like videos on everything from what to do with your 401k to how to get out of debt, how to negotiate, the corner office. So that's a great resource. And then we also have 30 live programs every single year on top of that. So adding more content. But the biggest challenge and what we heard from women, Ivy, was this is great. And I think it's really helpful for me to have learned what to do with my 401k or how to start an emergency fund. But what about my personal situation? I have some questions in particular. And so that's why we started the helpline, where we match women up with a certified financial planner to work together for free. And there's no other helpline in the world where you can call and work one-on-one with a financial professional that is, again, free of charge. And the other piece that's so important is that there's no income requirement or lack of income requirement. So you can call us if you have no income and no assets, and we'll help you. You can call us if you have a good income and a good amount of assets, and Savvy Ladies will help you.
So it's for every woman. When you hit a roadblock, what you could perceive as a dead end, when you don't know where, in your personal life, what decisions and options you have, there's a helpline for all women. This isn't about, you have to be in this category or that category. This is for everyone. So no woman can ever feel that they're at that dead end and they don't know where to turn. And it doesn't matter what their financial circumstances are. Sometimes because of emotional circumstances, we feel we don't have a place to turn.
Yeah, and Ivy, you said it so beautifully. And really what it comes down to is that my grandmother would not have qualified for the services that many of the lower income or women getting off poverty, getting off welfare can qualify for. She fell in the middle, and she also didn't have enough assets to really work with a financial advisor. That's what Savvy Ladies is about. We believe that whatever you have in your bank account or you don't, it doesn't matter. You still need this information. And it's not just, people with one set of circumstances or not. And the thing that's different about this too is that you may feel like you don't need Savvy Ladies right now, and that's okay. But there may be a time in the future where you have a question or things have changed and you do. And you know what? Savvy Ladies will be there for you.
And I'm going to get a little personal here. Stacy, we've known each other quite a while. And, you're touching a piece of my heart because my grandparents were where I was intrinsically close to. And I feel the love and the loyalty in making this difference. When you're expressing that you might not need it now, but maybe at some point you might not. We all know somebody. I don't think anybody listening to this podcast can say, wow, my friend, my relative ought to reach out. They're floundering. Even at what I'll qualify in my mid-50s at a young age, right? A girlfriend lost her husband in the last couple of years suddenly. Financial tailspin. Life happens. Things happen in life, and to know that there are resources out here is amazing. Before we continue down that road, I want to learn more about you as a businesswoman. I mean, how do you juggle all this? We also follow each other on social media. You've had knee surgery. You're a runner. You're like, do you sleep? Let's be real.
Actually, I do sleep, and my secret to success is I go to bed when my kids go to bed. So last night, Samantha and Sebastian, Samantha's 9, Sebastian's 12. I read her a book, and she's like, "Mom, one more chapter." I said, "No, it's your bedtime, and it's Mama's bedtime." And so that's what I do, and I get up, typically before the sun rises by 5 o'clock at the latest. And that's how I get so much done, is that I really get up early. I make sure that I get enough sleep. I do all the right things. I mean, I do exercise. I really do. I do, either marathons or triathlons. And I build that in because the time I have to take for doing that exercise, I get back fourfold in the fact that I have feeling great energy. I very rarely, knocking on wood, I very rarely get sick. And it just helps me mentally to have that me time, because I don't get a lot of me time. And I'll tell you, I'm also a absolute ninja at delegating what I can delegate, deleting what I can delete, and doing what needs to be done. And as you become more successful, as there's more on your plate, as more wonderful riches go into your life, you have to do that, or else you can't enjoy all those wonderful things.
I think what you're saying is so important, and thank you so much for highlighting it. Because what I'm hearing here is, if you don't put yourself first, take care of your own health, wellness, mindset, activity as a priority, there is nothing left for your children, your business, and what's near and dear to your heart, and the ripple effect of that.
You are so right. You are so right. And I'll give you a great example. Something that happened about 3 years ago that was such a big wake-up call for me. My husband had a 3-month gap between jobs. And so he was stay-at-home dad. And Ivy, the first thing that went in my mind was, oh my God, I can work all day, every day, because Michael's with the kids. This is great. I'm going to get so much done at work. All those projects I've been thinking about, gonna be done. And you know what? I did. I got so much done, but at the end of those 3 months, I was a really miserable person. And I realized that the time I take off, I often think I'm taking it off for the benefit of my children, or to be with my husband, or the other wonderful people and wonderful things I do with my life. And I realized that that's actually not true, that I need to take that time off for me. And it was such a wonderful, enlightening situation, because I, since then, have never then in any way taken a backseat to what's important to me. So on Mondays and Fridays, I take half days. I do it. No matter what week, I take half days. And it definitely means that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I am working very long hours, but it gives me the rest. It gives me the time I need with my family. And it lets me continue to have that wonderful energy and passion that I have about my work that really fuels me to keep going and do so much, which I know it looks from the outside, how do I ever sleep? But again, that energy and passion helps a lot.
I think it's important what you're saying. So I'm going to share a tip from my own business and life is my team manages my calendar. Nobody's allowed to touch my Fridays.
Love it.
It's off limits. If I choose to schedule meetings, I choose to schedule meetings. If I choose to see girlfriends, if I choose to get a massage, a facial, go visit my mom, spend time with my sister, do something with my kids, it doesn't matter. It's my right to create and my right to veto what I do on Fridays. And that has been for way before I started Slater Success, back when I still had my printing company, Slater Graphics. You could schedule me anytime, left, right, and sideways. Nobody touches Fridays.
That's smart. That's smart. And the thing that's important about that too is that gives you control. And I feel like sometimes we almost feel like our schedule's out of control, and because there's so much going on. And that's such a smart way of bringing control back to that schedule.
And, and speaking of control, this with Savvy Ladies really is what's empowering the women, is it's giving them an opportunity to take control of something they feel are spinning out of control.
Yes, it's interesting. I was reading an article, and it said the biggest financial risk a woman can take is getting married. So with a title like that, of course I'm going to read it. So I was thinking, oh my God, I'm married. I mean, but really what the article was about, which was valid, is that far too frequently, once we find our spouse, our partner, it's kind of a divide and conquer, and he or she does this and you do that. And more often than not, the one of the partners is dealing with the long-term investing and the finances, and the other one might be dealing more so with the kids and the everyday things. And that really is what the article was talking about, is that the biggest financial risk is then putting your hands up and no longer having your reins on your finances. And that we as women, in even the happiest of partnerships, we need to stay involved and have a role in the finances. It's really important. And we're seeing far too many women, again, give up those reins.
So in building Savvy Ladies and then going on to build your own financial institution, as Francis Financial, what has surprised you in your journey as a woman leader?
I would say that what has surprised me most the career that I have, being a wealth manager, financial planner, working in this field, it's one of the most female-friendly careers. It's also such a rewarding career. It's a career where you go home and yes, you may be tired, but you know that you helped change someone's life. And I mean that not only working through the charity, but I mean that working through Francis Financial and working with women going through divorce and trying to model out where they're going to be in 5, 10, 20 years, and then helping them 5, 10, 20 years on the road, continuing to make sure that they're financially secure. It is such a wonderful field. And over 2 decades ago, the numbers were such that only 23% of certified financial planners were women. And Ivy, what I'm sad to admit is that number has not budged. We still only have 23% of our certified financial planners being female. So there's a big disconnect in how wonderful this career is for women and being able to share that information with our college graduates and with our career changers. I think it's the greatest field you could ever imagine. And unfortunately, we don't have enough women. We need more women in this field.
So, question for you. In Savvy Ladies, on the hotline, are there as many men as women? Who steps in? Who gives of themselves? What do we see out there in trends?
You know, it's interesting. The majority of our volunteers are women, but we also have a good number of gentlemen as well that are certified financial planners, and they come to this wanting to make a difference. And it could be in their own client base that they've seen women be taken advantage of or because they didn't have enough information. And many times they have a personal story where they grew up in a household with a single mom, or they watched their sister go through some financial difficulties. Everyone has someone they know who has been impacted by finances. And unfortunately, there's only so much you can do really to save them. And that's why the financial education piece is so important. So we have both men and women who volunteer. We also have on the board both men and women. But what I will tell you, what's interesting, there are more women in the financial planning field. It's about 50-50 when you talk about independent fee-only fiduciary firms. For that type of financial planning firm, it's more 50-50, men and women. Where we don't see a whole lot of women are in places that are like the wirehouses or the insurance companies. And the problem is many of the compensation structures are based on commission. And that does not work well for a single mom who needs to provide for her family and doesn't necessarily have 5 to 10 years to build her business. So there's needs to be some changes, I feel, in the way we compensate individuals in this field. And also I feel like there needs to be some changes regarding being a fiduciary. I feel like all financial planners by law should put your interest in front of their own, not
Correct.
just a few.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And so what tips, advice do you have for our listeners in, I have a couple of questions here, but I'll start with one. What tips and advice do you have for our listeners as far as their own financial planning and how they could be showing up for themselves in their own lives?
The most wonderful investment you could ever make is actually in yourself, particularly about finances. And there are a lot of ways that you can start to dip your toe in and get smart about this. And the first thing is to look at your finances and make a little list of things that you feel like you're doing pretty well. You know, maybe you're putting money into your 401k and you've been, paying off credit card debt. and then make a list of things that you feel like you could be doing better. And as we get closer to the end of the year, it's perfect to do this exercise before the January 1st so that you can start to really focus on that change and put the tools in place to help support you. There are a lot of great resources. Of course, there's Savvy Ladies with all of those resources, but you also might want to take a look at Amazon. There are so many great books. Jean Chatzky, who's a friend, has written over a dozen books, and so many of them would be perfect. You could even watch Susie Orman, and I'm not the hugest fan of hers, but boy, Susie does say it succinctly to individuals of what they should or shouldn't be doing with their finances. It's essentially taking those small steps. Just as you don't graduate college in a day, you're not going to become the equivalent of Warren Buffett or Susie Orman over the the next evening. Just take those small steps. And if you do want to reach out to a financial advisor, I'll give you a great resource, napfa.org. It's N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, P as in Paul, F as in Frank, A as in Apple. napfa.org. It's fee-only financial advisors, and you can put your website in, your zip code in, and that might be what you decide to try and find someone to be there to hold you accountable to move forward. But no matter what, this should be part of that New Year resolution, because I feel like we all can improve with our finances.
Absolutely. So of my next life, I'm happy to come back as Warren Buffett. I've been a fan of his since my early 20s, I must say. As my 2 cents in this is knowledge is power. And no matter what you do, listeners, please take away, gain the knowledge, reach out to Savvy Ladies, reach out on Amazon, watch some videos, gain the knowledge. And if you need more support than that, there's resources here. So that I agree with wholeheartedly. I will say on a financial side, I have had my ups, I've had my downs. The key is to stay in the journey and to stay in the long term and never bury your head in the sand. And Stacy, that's one of the things I love about you so much, is that you stand up for women who have nowhere else to turn and don't see another way, another resource. So thank you for your work.
Well, thank you. And, I will tell you, we've had our ups and downs too. And there were times when we would go to the grocery store and we couldn't afford to buy meat or cheese. And we had to, just stick to pasta and things like that. But again, it's focusing on the long term, and it's focusing on what can I do today to make tomorrow better? What can I do now, not only with education, but what financial decisions can I make today? Because it's about loving yourself now, but it's also about loving your future self and making sure that all the things you're doing today is showing that love for your future self of where you're going to be in 5, 10, 20, for many of us, 30, even 40 years down the line.
Well, thank you, Stacy. Anything we did not cover that you want to share with our audience? How do we reach you?
I have to.
I'm sorry.
No
go ahead.
problem.
You go first, and then don't worry, guys. Everything's going to be in the show notes, as I say every week. So all the links, how to reach Stacy Francis, Francis Financial, and most importantly, Savvy Ladies, and all the resources there will be in the show notes.
Thank you. And we have a special gift for everyone. If you do go to the website, francisfinancial.com, we wrote a wonderful book, really telling the stories of 150 women who bared their souls to us and shared their experiences of going through divorce. They did this because they wanted to help other women not make the same emotional, financial, and legal mistakes that they made. So if you go on the website of francisfinancial.com, you can download a free copy. So if you are thinking about a divorce or separation, or know a dear friend who is going through that process, or even you, I really want to share that too, because this is actually where we have the highest number of women reaching out to us. because they find themselves in such a scary situation, making decisions for the rest of their life. And we want to make sure you're making the right decisions.
And listeners, always know you don't have to be alone. We're communities, many various communities are out here to support you. And thank you for Stacy Francis. Thank you to Savvy Ladies for being one of the most amazing resources out there. And Stacy, congratulations to you for everything you've built, for being an amazing woman leader in showing us how to stand up for ourselves, put ourselves first, so then everybody we love is taken care of.
Well, thank you.
Stay tuned for the show notes. Of course, subscribe to Her Success Story so our episodes come right into your inbox. And we will see you next week. Thank you, everyone.